Christian Science to me is of a higher understanding because it shows you that how God didn't make sickness at all. It shows you how the human mind is fabricating all these things. And it's the human mind that's scaring the heck out of you. All while I was going through that experience, while I was in the hospital, it was still something missing. It was something I can't explain. It was missing. And my father presented me with a Christian Science book in the 80s or something, and I used to read it off and on, and I couldn't get all the way into it. So, during my stay there at the hospital and everything, I wanted to get well, and I was wondering, why wasn't the normal way happening for me? Why wasn't I getting healed? And so I needed to know that, and I asked God that, and that's when he brought me back to Christian Science. And I called a practitioner. For a while I didn't call a practitioner. I just tried to read and deal with it on my own. But once I hired a practitioner, and she began to talk to me and to show me where my thinking was wrong. And where my thinking was wrong, I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my goodness, are you saying this? And I mean, they take it to a level of, look, if God doesn't create evil, God never made evil, where did evil come from? If God made everything that is made, everything that is made by God, and God is good, then where did evil come from? And it was just one of those things that make you question, okay, where did evil come from? Okay, the devil. And then we're taught in theology, common theology, God made Lucifer. He didn't make the devil, he made Lucifer. But then Lucifer fell, and he carried away like 1/3 of the angels with him, and they just started rebelling. Okay, I have to go back to the beginning. If God made everything that was made, if he made everything that was made, then what we're saying is God made an angel who at first was good, whose good substance then turned evil. When Jesus came back and told us, either make the tree good or evil, because a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. Did he not say that? So that kind of knocks that philosophy or logic out the box. So anyway, I started reading Christian Science again, and I started getting an understanding, a higher understanding of what I was doing wrong. And God wanted me to know this. This is why I'm going through this. I'm only going through this for the good. It's for the good of me and the good of my brothers and sisters. Okay, let's read what Christian Science's definition of man is, and you will find it quite interesting. This is the Christian Science textbook. Okay, this is on page 475. It says, what is man? Man is not matter. He is not made up of brain, blood, bones, or other material elements. The scriptures inform us that man is made in the image and likeness of God. Matter is not that likeness. The likeness of spirit cannot be so unlike spirit. Man is spiritual and perfect, and because he is spiritual and perfect, he must be so understood in Christian Science. Man is idea, the image of love. He is not physique. He is the compound idea of God, including all right ideas, the generic term for all that reflects God's image and likeness, the conscious identity of being as found in science, in which man is the reflection of God or mind, and therefore is eternal. That which has no separate mind from God, that which has not a single quality underived from deity, that which possesses no life, intelligence, nor creative power of his own, but reflects spiritually all that belongs to his maker. Now this right here blew me away and it took me a while for me to comprehend this, because for one thing, common theology teaches that man is a spiritual being, has a soul, and lives in a body. That's what we're taught. That's the basics of Christianity that we're taught. We live in a body and we have a soul. That's what we're taught. And so Mary Baker Eddy just comes to the point of, look, we can't see, just like you can't see God, you can't see the real God. You cannot see the real man, because man is spiritual. And the reason why we are going through whatever as far as sickness and stuff like that is based on our belief. It is what we're believing as man. And man is all connected in this mental realm. There's one mental realm as far as man, the human mental realm, but there is one mind. There is one intelligence, and that intelligence is God. Man is incapable of sin, sickness, and death. The real man cannot depart from holiness, nor can God, by whom man is evolved, engender the capacity or freedom to sin. A mortal sinner is not God's man. So, I mean, that kind of relates or reflects on what Paul is saying about we don't live in the flesh, we live in the spirit. So be that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. And so let me tell you this about Mary Baker Eddy. This may help some. When Mary Baker Eddy came out, she was born in 1821. I don't know what year her religion started and everything. I think she wrote her book in 1865. She discovered science and health. And what she discovered was the spirit. That's what she discovered. She discovered what man could not see any longer. She discovered the spirit. And she talked about us living in the spirit, that the spiritual realm, we all live inside of spirit. And this is exactly what Paul says when he says in Acts 17 that we live, move, and have our being in spirit. And this is what she expounds on. So that everything that we're looking at around here, we might see it in physical forms because our brain or our mind has been trained to see things physically. That's the way we see things. That's the way we learn things. That's the way I learned things in nursing school. It was like, this is what's happening with your brain. And it's not the brain, it's the mind. It's not the physical brain that's getting all this information. It's the mind. It's the mind that we have. And so because we're all connected in the same atmosphere, mental atmosphere, we hear each other's going ons. We hear what the majority of in other words, I'll put it this way, the mental realm is like a democracy. Wherever the highest thought or highest belief go to, that's the one that dominates, or that's the one that keeps coming to your attention. So you might be getting a headache or catching a cold or getting all of these other things, not because you yourself believe in them, but the mental realm of the majority believes in colds and hay fever and all of that stuff. And so when it comes to you, instead of you realizing that's not my thought, you just receive it, and because you start believing it and working it, it start becoming a part of your being. When we're learning in Christian Science, what we're learning is when thoughts come to you that are not in agreement with God and His character, His nature, is not in agreement with what God said He made, you have to deny it. You have to reject that and deny that, and don't focus on that. You have to focus only on God in that situation. And so that's what was going on with me. So when I called a practitioner in this situation right here, I called a practitioner in order for her to help me pray effectively about this situation, because I wasn't reaching what I was supposed to be reaching, but I kept reading and kept reading. So anyway, that's when she started making comments like this to me. Delora, you're not liable to sin, or you're not liable for sickness. You're not liable to disease. And that took me, that was, you know what I'm saying? And she had to explain that to me, that because I am the reflection of God, I am reflecting everything that God is in reality. That's the reality of things, that I reflect everything that God is. Because in the beginning, God, nothing else existed. Everything came from God, came out of God. So that when he says, I make man in my image and after my likeness, then we are imaging forth God. We are imaging forth God's character. We are imaging forth God's power, or all his attributes, his joy, his love, his meekness, his gentleness, all of those things. Without God existing or being present, we would not be able to be expressing or exhibiting or manifesting love and all that stuff. So, people who believe in the healing works of Christian Science, for those of you who don't believe in it, don't get mad, because we are able to trust God to the point of allowing us to go through this to get out of this, so that we'll be better able to explain it to you, my brothers and sisters, on how to overcome sickness. How many of us are willing to trust God to a point that, God, I have to trust you with everything I'm going through. I'm not going to take no medication. I'm not going to go through this with no medicine, because they're not going to say medicine healed anything. But here's an example of how Christian Science heals through logic. That it's not a blind faith like many people accuse it of being. Okay, let's say in my case, I told you in a previous video that I had adapted my mentality to smoking. I received that. And I received the idea that the smoking should cause some kind of physical effect to me. And I had the door opened for that. Okay, so all I need to do now is reverse all of that.